Today we're going to talk about, how objectively bad Louisville City's professional soccer club's new logo is. And, could it possibly have ties to the Confederacy? Really? We'll talk about that a bit. Anyway, I'm Ken Lammers. This is Minor League Matters. And let's get cracking. Okay, so Louisville City has built their new stadium, which I'm going to try to go to next year, and we'll see how well it works. It'll probably work better than shoehorning themselves into the baseball stadium. Although, unfortunately, when they play soccer in these smaller stadiums and they're forced to compress the field some, it does make the game more interesting. When they go out and they do the huge pitches. It ends up being a whole lot of the ball dribbling off over here and just scooting off over there, and not many people getting involved. It's not quite as exciting. But that's my personal opinion, and I know all the soccer files will tell me that I'm wrong. But I think it's still a good thing that they've got a new stadium going, right? So that's there, but unfortunately, they did what a lot of teams do when they get the new stadium. We're going to remake ourselves. We're going to be better, stronger, faster. And it'll probably cost about $6 million to get the new logo. Probably didn't cost them that much, but, come on. They paid somebody to do the new logo. And here you have the old logo, which is purple and gold. And next to it, you have the new logo, which is purple, gray, white, and black. The number of colors is kind of symbolic of the problems here. The old logo wasn't awesome, but it was a solid, pretty good logo, right? You had the Fleur-de-lis, a really nice Fleur-de-lis down at the bottom. That's a Louisville symbol. You had at the top of it was the skyline of Louisville. Of course, the gold kind of offset the purple. It had a unique shape, which, it was recognizable. And it is one of the few logos I've seen where you can say, yeah, putting the name on it worked, right? Generally, putting a name on a logo, a flag, or anything is a terrible idea. But by putting it, emblazing it across the center, using it to break the bottom with the fleur-de-lis in that, and the top with the skyline, it worked okay. And it was also a unique enough shape that it stood out and was readily recognizable. Okay, not the greatest color scheme. The gold with the purple was, not so great. But, they could have maybe done a change to gold and black, or gold and black would have been pretty cool. And maybe done it the other way, purple and black. I don't think they could get rid of the purple because a lot of people are calling Louisville soccer team the Purples. That's been a number of people calling them that. There's also, of course, been a lot of, I don't really know how much it's been driven by fans. I think it's probably been driven more by the announcers calling Louisville City Lou City, right? Okay, then we have over here on the right. Now, there are numerous problems, objectively problematic things with this on the right. And don't just take my word for it. Go look up some things. You can find them on YouTube. People talking about what's bad about flags, what's bad about symbols, that sort of stuff when you're trying to do them for municipalities, teams, and that sort of thing, right? So we have this thing that they've come up with, which is, I'm going to show you objectively why it's bad. Okay, first of all, let's start out with something that a lot of Americans may not understand, and I think I need to explain before we start here. If you're an American and you've watched American sports, it's amateur time if you put advertisements on your uniforms, right? I mean, putting a Nike swoosh on a uniform has cause some fussing, right? But because overseas they put big advertisements in the middle of the soccer uniform, right? They put them on the arms, they put them on, all over the uniform, and you end up with a little tiny logo here that's 2 inches high, maybe 3 at the outside, right? And it is nigh unto impossible to recognize a soccer uniform by the logo, unless the logo does something that stands out. Generally, the soccer uniforms are only really recognizable by the colors and whatever monstrous commercial that they have across their gut in the lower part of their chest, covering their on top of their uniform. For Americans, I know this is accepted around the world as the way it's done, but for Americans, this screams amateur hour, right? I mean, in American sports, you have readily recognizable logos on helmets, right, or hats, or even on the uniform itself, the name of the city or the name of the team will go across the chest in large letters. Sometimes you have a logo here on the side of the chest, and in like American basketball, you have logo covers the full front of the uniform. The logo's there and readily recognizable in American sports, whereas it is not in soccer, and it is hard to tell, like I say, with that little 2 to 3 inch logo, whether or not what the logo is, right? Unless it's something that's very distinctive. Now, I don't know what color Louisville's kits, and that's what they call jerseys in soccer, what Louisville's kits are going to be from here on out. I fear, from the fact that the stars on the top are gray, that they're probably going to use black. Not a terrible idea, I guess, but not really in keeping with what they've been in the past. And if they do purple, those 2 stars up there just are not, they're gray. They're not going to stick out. About the only color that those stars are going to stick out on are black, right? I mean, other than that, if it's purple, the traditional colors of Louisville, it's just not going to work. Now, almost anybody who talks to you about logos or flags and that will tell you that putting words on them is a bad call. I think it worked on the old one to an extent because it was something that cut the top and the bottom, and it was a large, bolder name, right? This one, no, it's a bad call. They went with Lou City because apparently the fact that they've had announcers calling it Lou City now for a couple, 3 years or maybe longer, has them thinking that, oh, this is what all the fans call it. Okay, fine. But they've changed it to Lou City Football Club. Now, it looks fine on the logos when they're this large, right? But think about this logo on a soccer player, 2 to 3 inches just on their chest, and you're not going to see those letters. Heck, if you're 10 feet away, you're not going to see those letters. This is a bad call. This is bad design. It's just bad. It's too cluttered in general, right? They've got the name, they've got the outside black border, they've got the inside white border, they've got a white slash across it, which for some reason they're saying is supposed to be the Ohio River. I get that Louisville, is on the Ohio River, but where Louisville's on the Ohio River, it goes from the northeast to the southwest, which is the opposite of what the slash is, which is from the northwest to the southeast. If if you're trying to say that's the Ohio River, you just made it that way, and you're claiming that so that you can make an excuse for it. The Fleur-de-lis are not classy. I mean, yeah, I get it that that's a way you can do a Fleur-de-lis. It is not as classy as the old style Fleur-de-lis they had on the original logo. They're actually kind of ugly. I mean, the Fleur-de-lis on the original logo is pretty, right? It's the pretty form of the Fleur-de-lis. This looks like what they've got here now looks like it's something that's, banged out of metal or something. It's not a pretty manifestation of the Fleur-de-lis. And of course, they've got that one corner there in purple, and the name is in purple, which on a gray background at, say, anywhere outside of 8 to 10 feet is not going to show well. The color scheme is not good. The gray with the purple is not good. It's just, and the black kind of in there too. I mean, you can make this into a decent kit, just a decent uniform, but the logo is not good. And then on the bottom left, for some reason they've got the bottom left of the secondary shield inside is black, and it's got 13 stars. Oh my goodness. Now, okay, I get what they're trying to say this is. They're trying to say it's the old Louisville flag, the flag that Louisville doesn't use anymore, which had 13 stars in the upper left corner and the Fleur-de-lis in the bottom right. And the excuse that Louisville has used forever and ever for having those 13 stars on there is the Betsy Ross flag, which I know, and although I disagree with it, has had some arguments about it lately. But the thing is, I'm not sure, and of course we'll never know this for sure, but if you know Kentucky history, the last time 13 stars were used in Kentucky history was this. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Confederate seal of Kentucky. Kentucky was meant to be the 13th state to join the Confederacy. Now, Kentucky's history in the Civil War is muddled. It declared itself neutral. It got invaded by both sides. A bunch of its soldiers went to the South. The rest of the people went with the North. And the North held the state for most of the war. Except there was one period of time when the South invaded, and they set up I can't even remember what town anymore. They set up a Confederate capital, which I think lasted less than a month. I want to say 2 weeks, but I'll say less than a month to be sure. And this seal was the seal that was Confederate. So let's be honest, when this was put on the flag of Louisville in 1949, Kentucky, while it was a border state and, in general fought for the North, it had a lot of sympathy for the Southern cause, right? John Hunt Morgan, I can remember seeing his statue in Lexington as I was growing up, that sort of thing. And the people who probably voted to put this on a flag in 1949 in Louisville, Kentucky, probably had some, Southern sympathies. So while I know that they now say, and have said for years, that, and may have actually even put it in as their official reason when they initially made a flag, I don't know the history, to be honest with you. If they're actually looking to Kentucky history, the last time the 13 stars were used in Kentucky history was the Confederate seal of Kentucky, which is just amazing that they didn't think this through when they did it, but they did it, right? So they got the 13 stars on there, and the only way that Kentucky has the 13 stars, Kentucky's history, is the Confederacy. I'm sure they will deny this vehemently, however you say that word, very strongly, they'll deny it. But, just means that they didn't look into the history. So we've got a flag that we've got a logo that first of all is way too cluttered. We got a logo which colors, particularly the gray, is problematic, right? We got a logo which they're trying to make excuses as to why they've got this and that portion of the logo, which don't really connect with reality. We all know what direction the river flows. And they got a logo that quite possibly has historical issues. And why? Now I know there's always, they ain't gonna change it back. Nobody changes it back. Even if it's an incredibly terrible error. I don't know how everybody gets sold on these bad logos, but they do. And let's be honest, a lot of soccer's logos, particularly in the US, are not good logos. There's a fair number of them that are just way too cluttered and not that great. The shame of it is, this didn't have to be a terribly bad logo situation, right? Because it's a small logo, it should be a simple logo. And because it's a small logo, if you make it a shape other than something so generic, I mean, this is incredibly generic what they've made here. It's a basic shield, line across the top, 2 lines down the side, comes down to a point. Meh. It's just nothing. There's nothing there that distinguishes it. So they could have made the whole thing purple, right? Or made the whole thing black and had on it like 3 purple Fleur-de-lis, the really nice type Fleur-de-lis like they had in the old logo. They could have done something really simple, really bold, readily observable, and something that would work really well. Instead, they went with this. It's cluttered, ugly, and it's a failure. And they won't back off of it. They never back off of them because then they have to admit stupidity and error. And they probably paid somebody a lot of money to come up with this cluttered logo. And so now, if they back away, they have to admit it's embarrassing. They have to admit that they failed. And they failed here, folks. They just have. Now they're going to try to make it look as best they can, and it's not going to work. I have several items with the old Lou City logo on it and everything, Louisville City logo. I don't have any intention of buying anything with a new logo on it. It's cluttered, ugly, and it just kind of looks corporate. It's just meh. Before they had a logo that was, average plus, decent enough logo. Now they've got a logo that's average minus, maybe average minus, right? They didn't go anywhere good with this. Now, Louisville's not unique in doing this, but one would hope that they hadn't really screwed up as badly as they have with this. Okay, so that's what I got to say about Louisville's new logo. Comments below. And if you found what I said here today interesting, click subscribe wherever that button is and click the bell because this is a hobby. I don't put them up every day like others. So you're going to want something to go ding, ding, ding when I put one up. And if you want to contact me, you can get me on Twitter at mleaguem, or you can get me at minorleaguematters@gmail.com. Either one of those you can contact me through and tell me what you think, what you like, dislike. But you can do that down in the comments too. Beyond that, folks, I got to say to you now, I realize this time of year there's not a whole lot of minor league going on. I mean, there's minor league hockey. Go watch a minor league hockey game if it's near you. They are fun, folks. But and there may be a G League thing near you with the minor league of the NBA, go watch some minor league sports. They're a lot of fun. Or go watch something like cricket that's an off-brand sport you're not used to watching. It's always fun going to those sports because the people who go there are there to enjoy it, right? They're there because they love the sport. And these are the people you run into in these areas, in these teams. Uh, and I highly recommend it to each and every one of you. And with that, all I got is one thing left to say. Ma salama, y'all.